appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by the talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-line broadcast bunker on the beautiful south coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County. Whoa, Oregon. America and beyond. Wow. You know, it's been a crazy news week, and I really, I was bouncing back and forth. What the hell am I going to do for tonight's show? There's so much to rant about and so little time, but I figured it out. So hopefully you enjoy the show, and I'm going to start out the show talking about a personal story. And I put this under the title, Things Could Be Worse. It could be worse. And at the end of the story, you'll see why I'm saying things could be worse. But Bandon is a beautiful place, and very rarely does anyone knock on your door. And I've lived in places where it seemed like a lot of people knocked on your door for different varied reasons that they would knock on your door. And many years ago, I used to get people knocking on my door, and there would be some carpet cleaners. There would be people wanting to paint the house. There are people who were selling one thing or another. And it's like I said, it very rarely happens in Bandon, but when it does, it is surprising. And because we don't get too many people out here, I actually enjoy it. And I love talking to people. And I like it when people knock on the door and have a good conversation. But I've had a couple of bad experiences, and I had a really bad experience this morning, and I want to talk about it. And I know maybe it isn't going to portray me in the best light, but that's okay. I'm honest about things, and sometimes even I get caught in a bad light and not looking so well, but that's okay. I mean, there was one time this young lady came knocking on the door. She was one of the ladies who was with a carpet cleaning company, and I stepped outside to talk to her. And as I stepped outside, the door shut behind me, and it was locked, and I didn't have my keys on me. And I'm standing there smiling to this young lady who's telling me how she wants to clean my carpets. And I explained to her, well, that would be nice, except that I have all wood floors. I don't have any carpeting in my house. And now I'm locked out of my house because I stepped outside to talk to you. And at that point, I was getting a little annoyed, and I told her, thank you, goodbye. And I walked next door, as my mother-in-law lives next door, and I got our house key, got back inside. Everything was great. But one of the things that I do get as far as people knocking at the door is I'll get some religious people. And the two main ones are usually the group that carries the Watchtower pamphlets. I think those are the Latter-day Saints. I'm not sure. I think they're the Latter-day Saints or Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not sure. I really don't know about the religion. I really don't care. One of the other group is there's usually these two young men, and it's been several different young men who are dressed really nice. They have a nice white shirt, nice slacks on, and they will knock on the door and want to talk about Mormonism. And that's perfectly fine. I'm more than happy to talk to young people, especially young people who are, very enthused about the religion. I find that quite interesting that young people out there are still very religious, and there are some. And so I don't mind talking to them. And most of the time, I don't mind talking to the people who are pushing the Watchtower magazine. I don't know if they call it a magazine, a pamphlet, a booklet, whatever they call it. And most of the time it was usually a couple of little old ladies who'd come knock at the door, and I would smile and take their pamphlet and be all polite and tell them, well, you may want to take this pamphlet back because I'm really not going to read it. Thank you and goodbye. That's usually the extent of the conversation. Well, many years ago, probably I would say 6 to 10 years ago, it's been that long, there was this guy who was peddling the Watchtower, and he was very nicely dressed, and he came to the door, and the first 4 or 5 times he came to the door, I was polite. I spoke with him at length at a couple of times about his religion, and I told him I wasn't interested, and he was really pushy about it. He was one of these, he was a true religious door-to-door salesman. I mean, a true religious door-to-door salesman, and he was really pushy. And finally, one time I was getting annoyed by him. I told him, here's your pamphlet back, whatever it's called, the Watchtower booklet, whatever, magazine. And I said, here, take this, get off my property. I'm done with you. You're being too pushy. And he came back maybe about a couple of weeks later. And I told him, I said, look, I've asked you nicely not to come back. You're being very rude. I get tired of you proselytizing me. And that's something that I don't have a problem with Christians or Christianity, but when anyone starts to proselytize me, I'll immediately cut them off and say, yeah, don't do it. I love it that you believe in your religion, and that's absolutely great, but don't proselytize me. I don't like it. I don't like someone trying to induct me into their religion. And I have told this to people, friends of mine. I had a friend who was a Mormon. His name was Steve, and he would every now and then try to proselytize me, try to get me involved with the religion and talk to me how great it was and I need to enlighten myself and whatever. And of course I would tell him, Steve, chill, okay? Just, I'm not interested. I was born a Catholic. I was raised Episcopalian. I've been to Baptist church. I've been to Protestant church. I've been to many different churches, and I don't have anything against religion. I'm just not religious, and I'm not interested in it. In fact, I'll tell anyone out there, if you're part of an organized religion, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't, organized crime, organized religion. I look at organized religion, and no offense to anybody, but someone who was raised Catholic, someone who has been in churches, I have seen the bad side of church. And being raised as a child in the church up to the point I was about 14, I can tell you I've seen some really bad stuff and how people have used the Bible and used their church and their religion to do bad things to people. I have seen this with my own eyes. And first off, the first claim I want to say is it's the individual. It isn't the organization itself. It isn't the Christianity itself. There are just bad players in every organization. And there are some bad players who are Christians. So I have no problem with that. Great. Just don't proselytize with me. And this gentleman who, and I will use the term politely because I don't think he was very gentlemanly. And like I said, he came up here with his Watchtower pamphlet, magazine, booklet, I don't know what you call it. And he was really pushy, and he was really trying to proselytize me. And I kept telling him, get off. And finally, after about, I don't know, this was about 6 or 7 times, I finally had to grab him by the arm. And he had handed me a Watchtower, and I had escorted him out to the street. And I said, look, and I handed him the Watchtower back a little forcefully. And I said, look, I'm tired of you. I'm sick of you. Get the hell off my property and don't come back, or I'm going to personally, physically throw you out in the street. Don't come back onto my property. And I'm one of those who I'm like a watchdog. You come onto my property and I don't want you here, you're going to get bit. Okay. That's just how I roll. And so I thought this guy took the hint, but not 24 hours later, just 24 hours later, him and another gentleman come knocking on my door. And this guy never really knocked nicely. Not like the Mormon boys. The Mormon boys were very polite and knocked nicely. No, this guy pounded on the door, and I opened it up and I saw it was him, and I was infuriated. And I stepped outside. I spun him around. I grabbed him by the cuff of the collar, grabbed him by his belt, and I literally threw him out in the streets. And I told him, I said, you come back here again, I'm probably going to beat you senseless. Don't come back to my house. And I know people are going, Rob, you're really rude. But you got to understand, this guy was really pushy. And I asked him nicely several times. So at a certain point, you get a little ticked off. You get a little ticked off at this stuff going on. And so I called the cops because I knew I physically threw him out in the street. So there might be some repercussions from this. And the cop shows up, and he had obviously called the cops. I guess people who get the watchtower don't have a problem with cell phones. But he called the police himself, and the police showed up, and he comes over and he says, what are you doing throwing this guy out in the street? And I said, look, I've asked him several times very nicely not to show up. 24 hours ago, just a day ago, I escorted him off my property. I told him he was officially trespassed and I don't want to see him anymore. And the cop says, well, did you have to get that rough? And I said, well, he really ticked me off. He says, after I ask you once and you come back on the property, he says, but, and the cop goes, well, you did ask him to leave. It is your property, so you have every right to remove him from your property. And I said, well, I thought so too. And so he went down, he talked to this guy, and he told this guy, don't ever show up to my house. I thought, great. So for the last 6 to 10 years, however long it's been since this guy was at my door, banging on my door in the morning, it's been a long time peaceful. And I've had a lot of different people come to my door since that incident, including other people with the watchtower, usually little old ladies, very polite. They get the hint. They're very nice. Not this guy. I get a pounding on the door this morning, and I'm in the middle of doing something. I was a little annoyed because, okay, I got to go to the door now. I open up the door, and there's this guy with the watchtower again with some other gentleman, and I just went off. I was so ticked off. The one gentleman who was with this guy, he goes, so what are you doing this morning? And I said, well, pretty much getting disturbed by a bunch of people who are pretty rude about knocking on others' doors. And I looked at him and I recognized him. And I said, didn't I kick you off my property already? And he got his eyes got about this big, because he knew I've already physically thrown him off into the street, and I don't normally throw religious people in the street, just ones who, want to keep shoving their religion down my throat. I've asked nicely, I've asked forcefully, and then eventually I throw your ass out in the street. I started going off of them, and the expletives were flying. I was effing this and effing that. Get off my effing property. You ever effing come back, I'm going to beat you senseless. I was everything in the book. I was ticked off. And I think I have a right to be ticked off because, well, if you want to do that, you can do that. But if someone asks you not to come onto their property, you should listen to them. Or you might get the reception that you got from me this morning. So, okay, maybe I'm, was a little, argumentative about this. But I want to put this under the category again. It could have been worse. It really could have been worse, And the reason I say that is that someone else received a knock on the door, and it wasn't the type of knock that they would want. I don't know. Let me put this up on the screen here. I don't know if you guys have seen this degenerate by the name of Sal Carruthers. This guy, Sal Carruthers, he used to run a page here called Oregon Bay Area, and he used to use the Chamber of Commerce logo for his page, and he was able to build it up to like 80,000 followers on this page. But this guy was a degenerate. He's wanted in Las Vegas, Nevada, because he didn't register as a sex offender because he's a pervert. And he was arrested here in Oregon, and he didn't register in Nevada, but he's back here living in Oregon. And from what I understand, he's going to move soon, but he lives in a building in downtown Coos Bay. And the guy is a piece of crap. Boy, I talked about it. He's just a piece of garbage. He's been hounding me for years. And he goes after people and harasses them. He He gets on Facebook and he harasses people through social media. He's just a real leftist dirtbag. And he's been associated with a lot of other people that we know, like Ed Glazar. Ed Glazar is the former photographer for the World newspaper, a total commie dirtbag who used to on a regular basis try to harass me. And once again, I'd shut him down. If I get you on my social page, my social network page, one of the platforms that I use for social media, if you start harassing me, I don't bother even going and conversing with you. I'll just immediately, just shut you down. That's pretty much me. I'll just shut you down and delete you, block you, whatever it takes. Well, this Sal Carruthers, he would create all these different social media identities, and he would always come back and start harassing people. And you'd know who he is because he always used the same lingo. So you'd know right away that it was Sal Carruthers. He's a putz. He's a moron. And he's also a degenerate. I wouldn't let him around your kids. Don't hire this young man. In fact, I've heard that he's had such a hard time getting a job here in Coos County that he's leaving. He's moving north. Good riddance. He can be up with the rest of the degenerates up in Salem and in Portland and, wherever they get their kumbaya moment going on. That's perfectly fine with me. But it was funny because there was an incident that he was reporting, and he's got this new page called Coos Bay Area, Oregon. And he's trying to build that up because he sold his last page to Mary Gedry, who's another local vocal leftist. She's a lying, manipulative, very just absolutely leftist, insane person. And she's now, she purchased her nonprofit group has purchased the Coos Bay Area page. Well, Sal Carruthers has created this other page, and there was a post on it the other morning that someone had sent me because I don't follow these people. I don't give a damn about Sal Carruthers, but there's a lot of people out there who do watch him because he's harassed them. And so they send me information to me when it pertains to certain things, especially if it pertains to me. This had nothing to do with me, but I thought it was freaking hilarious. It said, this morning, I became the target of a swatting incident, and I want to share what happened. At approximately 10:05 a.m., I was startled by a knock on the door from the Coos Bay Police Department. They informed me that they were conducting a welfare check because Mary Gedry, the leftist nutbag, had contacted them expressing concern for my well-being. Let me make it clear. Mary and I are not friends. We do not have any kind of personal relationship that would warrant her taking this action. And that's not true. That's a lie. No, Sal Carruthers and Mary Gedry have several connections. One, she bought his last page, but I continue reading this. It says, the entire situation has left me deeply shaken and distressed. Good, because Sal's a dirtbag. It says, I believe this was a misuse of law enforcement resources and a serious overstep on her part. Being falsely reported to the police is not only incredibly frightening, but also dangerous. It's unacceptable for someone to weaponize the authorities in this way, especially when there was absolutely no reason for it. This experience has been very upsetting, and I appreciate the outpouring of support I've already received. I hope the incident brings attention to how serious and harmful these types of actions can be. Thank you for everyone for understanding and standing by me through this ordeal, because it was quite an ordeal. I don't know. Maybe Sal needs a couple of watchtower people knocking on his door. I don't know, but I could understand that. Police come knocking on my door telling me it's a welfare check. I might feel the same way. Oh, why you bothering me? Go away. I'm fine. But Sal deserves it. And so I thought it was just freaking hilarious. So under the guise of, well, it could be worse, I guess it could be worse than having someone from either the Latter-day Saints or Jehovah's Witness. I'm not sure, once again, what the Watchtower is all about. I really don't care. I'm not religious. But it just goes to show that everything could be a little worse than what you think it is when these type of situations happen. But I thought I would just share with you what I went through this morning. And it wasn't a big ordeal. I've chewed people out. Maybe it's because I was born in New York. I don't know. Maybe it's, it's in my blood to be able to chew people out, walk back inside, have a glass of chocolate milk, and carry on with the rest of the day. That's just how I am. And so I don't know. I hope this gentleman doesn't knock on my door again, because I'd hate to have to deal with it anymore. I got some people here who are making comments on it. This is pretty funny. Conspiratard has Airport Heights Militia checking in. Well, that's good. I'm glad Conspiratard is here. That's always very helpful. It's always very helpful to have someone from the Airport Heights Militia checking in. At least he wasn't knocking at my door. I appreciate you not knocking on my door. But if you do, I would actually want to talk to someone who is in the Airport Heights Militia. I want to see the pamphlet that you would be promoting if that was the case. He also says here a German Shepherd would have prevented this. Well, no, not so much. I had 2 Akitas, which are usually larger than German Shepherds. They're one was 140, one was 120 pounds, and mean looking dogs, really mean looking dogs. And it didn't stop this guy one iota, because they're behind the fence. And of course, he's able to walk past the fence while they're barking and snarling at him and get to the door. So yeah, you would like to think so, but I don't want my animals biting anybody. But yeah, I get your point totally. Let's see. You have another comment here. I'd like to have my own holding cell jail on my property. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. You violate my rights and you overstep your authority and you come onto my property. Yeah, I like that. I have a holding cell here. We call it the hole, and it's literally a hole in the ground. It's about 10 feet down. I would drop you in and put bars over it, and I would keep you there unfed, unkept, in the weather until you get the idea that it's not a good idea to come knocking on my door after I've asked you not to. Let's see what he says. Sal is a creepy weirdo. That's about the nicest thing you could say about Sal. Sal is a creepy weirdo. And so, like I said, it was a much more disturbing story for Sal when he got a knock on the door from the police. But he was, I guess he was trying to claim he was swatted, which isn't true, because it was just a welfare check. And I don't know why Mary Gedry would do such a thing. She's just a freaky lady. Okay. I used to know her quite well. We worked together on a campaign, and, working with someone, you work with them for long hours, you talk with them, you get to know them, and you realize this lady's a nutbag. And that was pretty much the case with Mary Gedry, or Gedry. I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name, but Mary Gedry is just one of those who, I just, I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on her, because she's ticked me off for a long time. Let's see. Conspiratard. Let's see. What has he said? Coos Bay, North Bend is full of degenerate weirdos. Boy, isn't that true? Isn't it? That could be said about any place in Oregon anymore. It's like we're a degenerate weirdo magnet for the rest of the entire nation. I mean, probably the world, because we get people from around the world who come here who are degenerates, who are criminals, who are weirdos. It's weird how they just love coming out here to Oregon. Because why? Why? Because we give so much free stuff away. We will give you free stuff. We'll give you housing. We will give you food, healthcare, education. Come on in, weirdos. And go ahead. If you want to molest our children, you want to eat our animals, you go right ahead. We're all into that, because we're Oregon and we're freaks out here, And that's how the rest of the nation looks at us. When I talk to my relatives or my friends in the Southwest, in places where most of the people are still normal, they think of Oregon as a freak show, and it's because of Portland. They watch what happened in Portland during 2020 and over the last couple of years, and they just think automatically, wow, Oregon is a freak show, man. I mean, you don't take a lot of money, because you can sit on the sidewalk and watch the freak show happen all day long. And it's very true in the Empire neighborhood. I was over there just a couple of days ago, and it's still Yeah, a freak show. But that takes me up to my next story that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you folks have ever seen the website Feral Humans. It was designed by a friend of mine, and he created this website as a place that people can go and list all the criminals and all the degenerates that live in the county. And this is, if you want to look up criminals, go to coosmostwanted.com. Once again, that's coosmostwanted.com. I highly recommend it because it's updated on a regular basis. The guy who designed it, and I can't tell you who he is, but the guy who designed it, his intentions were to create something like a Wikipedia, but for criminals, the feral humans. And that's what we call them, feral humans. These people literally have reverted back to being wild animals. You just, like I said, you just go check them out in the Empire neighborhood. And a lot of these people, they've just reverted to living back in the wild as wild animals. I don't know how we're going to get them back into society where they can actually be some type of productive member of society. I just don't see that happening. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. And hell, they're going to have to, the first thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to want to be part of the society. As long as they want to be feral humans, well, that's what we're going to get. And as you can see, this is a picture right here of Brandy Lynn Moore. Let's go down. This is Troy George Newstead. Yeah, he rides a rattle can black Honda motorcycle that is registered to a dead guy and continues stealing license plates to put it each time police remove them. He is also spending a lot of time around the 3-mile marker of the Coos River Highway. So, and they put their picture up, and if you click on it, you can go see all his different offenses going back to however long people have been posting on here. But here was the best one. This was the best one yet. No, not Nathaniel Wesley. No, not him. Not Karma. No, even though she's quite the character. Yes, this incompetent creature right here. And I love the picture. She's a real good looker, let me tell you. And this comes from a man who's pretty ugly himself. But this right here, this woman is Tara Reed Johnson, and she's the one who's the director of the Devereux Center. And as you can see right there, this was dated from September 17th. It says the Coos Bay City Council voted unanimously. That means every single one of them for you and Powers. Unanimously to revoke the business license of the Devereux Center effective in 30 days and announced that their operation at the Coal Bank Village would soon be shut down by FEMA. FEMA, what they have found out, that they built the Coal Bank Village below the floodplains, and they just did this mapping. FEMA just redid all of this mapping for the floodplains all over the state of Oregon and other states. And when they redid this mapping, it was funny. I went to the meeting where FEMA had done this, and some places that were declared a flood zone really wasn't a flood zone, and places that were not declared a flood zone really were a flood zone. So when they did the remapping, it changed a lot of things. But I asked them, well, what about the people who were forced to get flood insurance that really didn't live in a flood zone? Are they going to get reimbursed for all the money they spent for all those years on insurance that they didn't need? And of course, the lady looked at me and she goes, that's a good question. And that's what politicians or bureaucrats will say when they really don't want to answer you, because they know the answer is hell no, we ain't going to give them back a dime. They're just SOL. And so it was good news. I had seen this. In fact, I told you all that there was a city council meeting last week. It was last Tuesday, and I always like to announce those so that people know to go to these meetings. And this meeting would have been a great one to go to. Unfortunately, I was busy, or I would have been there. So hopefully some of you got to make it to the meeting and see where Tara finally got her comeuppance, because Tara, she's been running. It's not, the Devereux Center is really, they do some good things during the day when they're actually feeding families who are in need. That's a good thing. However, when they're enabling the derelicts of society, the dredges of society, when they're enabling these people to dirty up the local surrounding neighborhood by giving them sleeping bags and tarps and tents and food and big containers and stuff that get left all over the place. And I've walked around Empire, and you can pretty much see it on every street. And you know, it's you look under the trees and the bushes in Empire, and you'll see a lot of litter from these people who have gotten stuff from the Devereux Center. She's just enabling them. And I'm one of those, I believe in tough love. If you want to be a druggie and you want to choose the lifestyle of being someone who lives in the street, well, that's your choice. But you also have to take responsibility for that. If you don't want it, well, then don't do it. In fact, I got into an argument with someone the other day on social media. I think it was Facebook, who was mad because someone had taken a picture of a couple of druggies on the street who were bent over, and they looked like zombies. It looked like they had just smoked some drugs, probably some fentanyl, and they were standing there. Well, they weren't even standing there. They were all bent over, barely conscious. The guy even had his lighter in the tinfoil in his hand as he's all bent over. And the lady was mad because people were making rude comments about this, saying, "Oh, look at these dredges of society. Look at these people." And she was all pissed off because people were making fun of these druggies because they had an illness. She called it an illness. Now, let me explain something to you people who think drug use, alcohol use, cigarette smoking is an illness. If you think it's an illness, then you must think that people who are addicted to looking at their phone 200-300 times a day, that's an illness too? No, that's a choice. And you know it's a choice because nobody picks up a pipe full of cancer or AIDS or leukemia and smokes it, okay? Nobody chooses to get cancer, but people choose to do drugs. It's not an illness. It's an actual choice. And I can say that. I used to be a drug user. I used to use heavy drugs, hard drugs, and for a long period of time, and lots of them. I had lots of drugs at my disposal. And, you know, most of the people in my age group who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, it was just commonplace for a lot of us to, you know, do meth or do cocaine or to do hallucinogens. That's just, that was kind of it was part of society back then, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And some of us lived it to the extreme. And so most of those people that I grew up with, some of them died of the drugs that they used. Some of them died of the alcohol or the cigarettes. They got cancer. They got cirrhosis of the liver. But a lot of people, most of the people I know my age, who I still stay in contact with on Facebook, they just made a choice at some point in their life, just like me, to grow up and stop using drugs. We just decided we're not going to use drugs anymore. We're not going to spend $100 a day or more on cocaine. And it was a choice. None of us went to the Betty Ford Clinic to get cleaned up. Of course, we couldn't afford to go to the Betty Ford Clinic because it was like $30,000 a week to go to kind of places like this. In fact, I would call it the drug clinic industrial complex. It's like the homeless industrial complex. It's once again, it's a problem that the political class, the bureaucrats, they exploit so that they can make money off of this. The county has done it itself. The county created a homeless committee, which is made up of people from the city of North Bend, the city of Coos Bay, and the county commissioners. And in fact, just the last commissioners meeting, which was last Tuesday, was it the meeting before that? I can't remember. But they just voted to give $30,000 of a grant that they got for this homeless committee to the Devereux Center so they can put a fence around the place, which many of us thought, well, that's just ridiculous. All you're doing is giving them a place for these people to hide. And there's no one who's even supposed to be on the Devereux Center at nighttime. At nighttime, there's not supposed to be anyone on there, but there is people on the property at night. I know, I've seen it. I've been over there on the street in front of the Devereux Center filming at nighttime, midnight. And I know people who've gone down into the Devereux Center at night who have purchased drugs, who have been offered sex in exchange for drugs just to prove the point that it's an open air sex and drug market. This is happening on the Devereux Center. So when people tell me, oh, doing drugs, addiction is an illness, I really want to smack them upside the head. It's not an illness. And if you think it's an illness, there's something wrong with you. Because like I said, nobody picks up a pipe full of cancer and smokes it down. But people choose to pick up meth, cocaine, heroin. They choose to do this. It's a choice. And you can decide not to do this. In fact, I have helped people get off of drugs. The hardest drug that I've ever helped people try to get off of was cigarettes. And actually, I don't think I've ever been successful of getting anyone off of cigarettes because it's a choice and you have to decide not to smoke the cigarettes. It's pretty simple. Do you want to buy the $10 pack of cigarettes or do you not want to buy the $10 pack of cigarettes? Well, if you do, you chose to go to the store, put down your money, and put the damn cigarette in your mouth and light it up. That was all a choice. Those are all choices. And it's the same thing with coke, meth, heroin, and etc. And I've actually helped people get off of heroin. And we used to use in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of methadone clinics around. This was back in Albuquerque, and we would use high grade marijuana and substitute the marijuana for the heroin. And they would have to make the decision, we're going to get off of this. And heroin, unlike cocaine or meth, actually has a physical dependency. So your body goes through through withdrawals. And so you have to kind of substitute something to help them keep their mind off of going through these withdrawals. And one of the things we used is really high grade marijuana. And we were able to get certain people off of drugs. And usually what happens is they become pot smokers and have remained pot smokers forever. But I'd rather see someone smoking pot than smoking meth, coke, or heroin. And so, like I said, most people my age, from my age group, we've just decided, many of us, that we're going to grow up and we're going to stop using drugs. And that was a choice. That was our choice. Most of us didn't go to clinics. Most of us didn't see psychiatrists or psychologists. But my thought is maybe we would still be on those drugs if we had someone like this lady here. This lady, Tara Johnson, who's on the screen right here. If she was there enabling us, giving us the ability to continue our bad lifestyle and to enable our bad choices, maybe some of my friends would be dead and not alive because they were enabled by this person. So it really ticks me off when people go, well, Rob, you got to understand there's got to be someone to help these people out. And the best way to help them is not to enable them. Stop feeding these people. Stop giving them stuff. Stop giving them the ability to go out there and make those bad choices. And if they suffer the consequences, and some of them will die, they're going to die anyway. They're going to continue to use fentanyl and heroin until they're dead. People there's not too many that OD on meth or cocaine. Usually it's the heroin or the fentanyl. Fentanyl is the worst. And if you listen to the police radio, if you're in Empire and you listen to the police radio, you'll hear them all night long. We got another OD, bring out the Narcan. I wouldn't even provide Narcan. This is an assisted suicide state. And if you want to kill yourself with drugs, because I believe it's a choice, then we should allow you to kill yourself. And we shouldn't be wasting tax dollars on the Narcan. And I've said this at plenty of public meetings, and I got a lot of pushback. A lot of people were they were ticked off at me. Some people they acted revolted. Oh my God, you're such a sadist. And it has nothing to do with being cruel. It has to do with being able to make people responsible for their decisions. And Tara Johnson, who now is under the gun, the city has filed paperwork against her for being a nuisance, and they're going to be closing her down in 30 days if she doesn't shape up. She is going to be a problem. But the thing is that I've heard through the background, through the back channels, because I still got friends in low places. They're part of the city council or the city administration, and I still got people in low places. And they were telling me that they're looking, and this is something that they've been wanting to do for a while, is get the homeless out of the Coal Bank Village and out of the city and into the rural area of the county. And I'm not really for this, because I don't think we should give them any more enabling centers. And I think this would just grow into a huge drug colony out in the woods. But what they want to do is they want to take the Boys Bologna Ranch, which used to be a place where they could take boys who were, some of them didn't have parents, some of them were in foster care, some of them were, and they had criminal problems, and they would put them in the Boys Bologna Ranch. And unfortunately, there was some weirdo diddling the boys, and the thing eventually got closed down. But they want to go out and I'm not sure if they want to purchase. This is the city of Coos Bay and the city councilors and the mayor. And I've heard this from behind the scenes that they want to purchase the Boys Bologna Ranch, or they want to rent it, which would be a good thing for the county. But I don't know if it would be so good for society, but it'd be a good thing for the county, because if they rented it out, they could rent it out at a huge price. I don't know, maybe up to $20,000 a month. And eventually they could make a little bit of money off the suffering of these people who are being enabled to use the drugs that they're using. And this would be happening at the Boys Bologna Ranch, which is about, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles south of Coos Bay. And it's on Highway 101 south of Coos Bay. I don't know if you've ever been there. I've driven around the compound out there, and yeah, we'd probably make a good place for people who want to I don't know, have somewhere for these derelicts of society to go, because I don't really see this being a benefit to people who are truly in need. Because if they're in need, they're probably city dwellers, and it's, or they're talking about having the bus pick up people who are homeless in the city and take them out to the Boys Bologna Ranch. And it's not bologna as in, the sandwich meat. It's as in bologna, B-L-E. What is it? Bellion, bologna. It's not spelled the same way. I'm butchering the spelling of that, but that's what they want to do. And also, from what I hear, and this is, once again, it's through back channels, this is all rumor, they want to get rid of Tara Johnson, and they want to replace her with Drew Farmer. Now, if he wins as commissioner, God help us if he wins. But if he wins, I don't know if he's going to accept the position what Tara is doing now, because they want to get rid of Tara. They're tired of her. She's completely incompetent, and she's not forcing people to live up to the rules that she herself has set up for the Devereux Center. So they certainly don't want to put her in charge of the Boys Bologna Ranch, or the Bologna Ranch, when they turn it into a homeless, I don't know. I guess it would be like a homeless vacation resort out in the woods. It's a very beautiful spot, just south of the city on 101. It's a very beautiful spot out there, but I don't think it's good to put these people out there, because I think it's just going to grow. It would grow into a colony of the derelicts of society, and some people who actually need help and have to go there to feed their family and whatnot. But I think there's other ways of doing this. And if you notice, there's several other places. There are churches. There are a couple of missions in Coos Bay that have never received any complaints from the city as far as being a nuisance, and it's because they force people to live by certain rules. And if you can't live by the certain rules, well, you're out of here, which means they're not enabling those who are doing wrong. They try to help people who want to help themselves. And that's what we should do. That's the big point. We need to help people who want to help themselves. This freak right here, Tara Johnson, she's just completely incompetent. She's a nice lady. I've actually interviewed her and have had her on my radio show. It was funny. She was on my radio show, and somehow she convinced David Brock Smith to show up. This is when I was still friends with David Brock Smith. And he showed up coincidentally at the radio station. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood, and oh, hey, look, there's my friend Tara. And I interviewed both of them. And the reason she invited David was so that I wouldn't be so mean to her, because, she had a bad reputation. she even has a worse reputation now for being someone who's just enabling these derelicts of society to continue on doing their drugs and fueling the situation. The criminals and who are committing crimes in the Empire neighborhood, they're being fueled by the Devereux Center. And so personally, myself, I think there are other ways that we can feed families who need food, people who are actually in need, who actually want to help themselves. I think there are ways of doing this without bad idea. And so I was happy to see that. And I thought it was funny that FEMA shut down the Coal Bank Village, because when they were originally creating that village, we had told them that it was in a flood zone, that if you truly care about these people, you would not put them in these little bitty containers. They got these little containers out there. They're like 10 foot by 10 foot. There's these little bitty containers out there. And if you really truly cared about these people, you certainly wouldn't put them in a flood zone, in a floodplain. That's just crazy. And we thought, the politicians are always talking such bullshit. They always talk about how we care about you, we love you, we just want to do better for people in society, and blah blah blah. Let me blow some more smoke up your ass. And so they will tell you that they're doing something for someone when they're actually doing something to someone. And we had already complained because, like I said, FEMA had done those flood mapping, and the place where the Coal Bank Village is at, in that slough, or right next to the slough, always gets flooded. They've had some huge flooding problems. So now FEMA is going to shut them down unless they can raise the village by 4 feet. That's usually the amount of height that you have to get. So it's not technically it's still in a flood zone, but it's raised above the flood level, because that's where the flood level traditionally, historically ends, is about 4 feet. And so we thought that was funny. So it was good to see that FEMA finally stepped up, because FEMA is one of the worst federal agencies out there. I mean, talk about a waste of money. These people, they waste money like I go through tissues during the allergy season. It's scary how fast these people waste money. And so FEMA finally stepped up, and they're going to close down the Coal Bank Village. Thank goodness. Thank goodness is happening. But unfortunately for us, the citizens of Coos County, rumor has it that they're going to move all of these derelicts out to the Boys Baloney Ranch. And I'm completely against this. I don't think it's a good idea to, maybe it is. Maybe it is a good idea to take feral humans and just reintroduce them into the wild instead of actually helping them become human again and becoming productive members of society. Maybe that's the idea. We'll just put them in the woods, and they can be wild animals out in the woods. And maybe that's really how they want to live. They can go around hunting for mushrooms and fentanyl out between the trees and stuff. I don't know. That's just, it just seems like a wild idea. And I think this country has really gone really south as far as treating people who have addictions. And I go back to a generation, my people my age, who have went through the crack epidemic. Remember the crack epidemic of the 80s? Many of us were smoking crack. We were smoking, we were doing cocaine, we were doing meth, many of us. And like I said, most of us, we just grew up. We just realized that it wasn't worth doing these drugs, and we stopped. And so that's why I get really ticked off when people call it an illness, because it's not an illness. It is a decision. And if you're making that choice, well, that's your choice. And nobody in society, nobody else should be forced to pay for it. I mean, I thought slavery was illegal in this country. Well, apparently not. Apparently not at the Devereux Center. So that's my rant for the week on the Devereux Center and what's going on there. And hopefully you'll get that information and be able to use it and disseminate it out there in the public. Because like I said, the two rumors about Drew Farmer and them moving it to the Baloney Boys Ranch, that's all rumor. Comes from good sources, but it's all rumor. But I'll tell you right now, I was at a meeting a couple of years ago, and this was a couple of years ago, when the mayor, Benetti, he had discussed putting these people out in the middle in the middle of the unincorporated area in the county. He had talked about finding a place for these people. So that doesn't really seem out of the stretch of the imaginations that he would think that the Boys Bologna Ranch would be a good place for this. So that's my rant on that. That's what's happening there. And I hope people realize that. None of your business. Oh, I'm glad you're joining us. None of your business. Hitting yourself in the head with a ball-peen hammer is just an illness. Yeah, it's a good example. If I take a ball-peen hammer and every day I whack the crap out of myself, is that an illness, or maybe I'm just, someone who likes to hit myself in the head continuously because I'm an idiot? I don't know. I just, once again, and I don't know if they're going to create centers for people who hit themselves in the head with a ball-peen hammer. And I give the cell phone as an example. People use cell phones constantly, every day, several hundreds of times a day. I see kids as young as 8 and people as old as 80 on their phone nonstop all day long, looking at their phone. They're walking down the street and they're looking at their phone. And that, to me, that in itself is a choice. It's not an addiction. And if you have an addictive type of personality, or someone who, falls for bad habits, and I prefer that word, habits. We get into these bad habits and we continue those bad habits, and they want to call them addictions and then label them as illnesses, so that somehow some professional bureaucrat somewhere will get paid a lot of money to help you cure you of your illness that you're addicted to, And so, no, I like to call them habits. It's a drug habit, and that's how people used to say that. And it's a bad habit, and we need to get out of this bad habit of enabling these people to do their drugs or hit themselves in the head with a ball-peen hammer. It's a very good point there, none of your business. So let's change subjects. I'm done enough ranting on the Devereux Center. Let's talk about something, that's affecting us here directly in Coos County. Have you ever heard of the STEPS program? The STEPS program, and I don't know exactly what the acronym for STEPS stands for, but I do know it's basically the hatchery program where they grow fish. They take the fish and they put them in the water, and it helps replenish the fish in the rivers and in the streams, so that people who are fishermen who come here for fishing tourism, they come here so that they have something to catch, because we want these people coming out here to be able to enjoy nature and enjoy what nature provides, or to enjoy what man helps nature provides. And that's a really good thing, except that anytime the government's involved with anything, they can screw it up. They could screw up a wet dream. Let me tell you, government can screw up everything. So the STEPS program, there's a lot of people I know who volunteer for the STEPS program. They go out there, they help milk the fish, they help raise the fish to adults, and it's a great learning experience. I think they have a program at the Coquille High School. It's a STEPS program where they grow fish out there. I don't know if you call it growing fish or hatching fish. I don't know what the terminology is, but recently there was an incident, and I want to give you some history before I talk about this incident that just happened with a couple of 37,000 hatchery fish. The ODFW is one of those agencies, once again, that I think is probably more of an agency that knows how to waste our money and our time. And but they're also an agency that can actually help fine other people or other businesses, private property owners, for doing things in nature that they find abhorrent. And right now I'm showing you an article. This is an article that was on the Native Fish Society's website. Now, if you don't know who Native Fish Society is, these are people who believe that hatchery fish and hatchery box fish are genetically inferior to native fish. And they believe that we should not have hatchery fish And so there is an actual organization called the Native Fish Society. And if you want to see who they are and what they're about, go to the nativefishsociety.org and it'll give you an idea. But they had an article on here. And this article was from October 12th, 2023. And it talks about ODFW seeks fines of $27.6 million for unlawful killing of Pacific lamprey. And what had happened is that in Douglas County, Oregon, this happened on October 6th of 2023, ODFW filed a complaint with the Douglas County Circuit Court seeking damages for the unlawful killing of fish during the Winchester Dam repair project this past August. ODFW claims at least 550,000 lamprey were killed due to the inadequate fish salvage that occurred during that draining of the reservoir pool. The proposed claim is one of the largest of its kind for the taking of state fish and wildlife, because they think they own Mother Nature. I don't know if you can whore out Mother Nature, but if it can be whored out, if Mother Nature can be whored out, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, I guess, are the people who are the pimp of Mother Nature. They're Mother Nature's pimp. And so there was a quote here. It says the tragic fish kill that occurred during the Winchester Dam repair project was totally preventable. I am happy ODFW is stepping up to hold Winchester Water Control District accountable for their total disregard for this social, cultural, and economically important state-sensitive species. Kirk Blaine, Southern Oregon coordinator of the Native Fish Society, and this is a leftist group. These are real extremist native fish people. They love native fish. And we'll get into a story that will show you how much they love native fish. But it says here, it continues on. It is our hope this brings light to the importance of Pacific lamprey and the restoration of the species across the Pacific Northwest. Native Fish Society will continue to ensure this and other reported violations that affected the natural resources of the North Umpqua during the project are investigated and enforced to the fullest extent. Now that's interesting that they find, let's see, what was it called again? The water district. They're finding the water district for making repairs to this Winchester Dam. And, this was just a project that happened, just last year. And yet the state itself is in the process of pulling the dams, like the Klamath Dam. They just recently pulled that. And I don't know if you've heard what happened, but after they pulled that dam, all the sediment and all the garbage underneath the water that was behind the dam got released into the river and killed all the fish. And I don't remember the Native Fish Society getting all upset about that. Why? Because it's part of this radical green agenda to pull all these dams out. And of course, these dams, they provide energy through their hydraulic systems. They're hydraulic dams, which use the flow of the water through the dam to generate energy. And of course, they wanted to remove these dams because they believed it was destroying the natural habitat of salmon and other fish. And so they wanted to get rid of these dams. And when they did get rid of these dams, of course, it caused this natural disaster in the Klamath River where many of the fish are dead. I've seen videos, and you can look this up on YouTube. Look up the Klamath River, the Klamath dams, and just look that up on YouTube, and you can see videos where people are out there and they collect the water, and the water is literally black. It looks like it's really black. It looks like oil and just dirt and all kinds of nasty stuff have been washed into that river that killed all those fishes. And I don't remember the Native Fish Society getting their panties all in a bunch for that. But when a private district does it, we're going to have problems with that. And of course, ODFW demanded that the people on the Winchester Dam project get fined for their repairs to the dam. And I think there are some political ideology being played behind the scenes. Oregon Outlaw has a comment here. He says, water storage is bad when the government wants to control every bit of the water. You're damn right it is. You're damn right it is. But unfortunately, there are people on private property who have dams on private property who have created a water reserve for them and their neighbors in the surrounding area, who are now being sued by groups like the Native Fish Society and being pressured by ODFW to get rid of their dams. And I can't remember the one south. It's over there by Cave Junction. There's a it's not really a city. It's a small village of people who have their own dam, and they're now asking that they pull that dam. And once again, the consequences are going to be that they're going to kill the fish. Lenny Ketchum has a comment here. He says that dam is a target because the body of water behind it is a private lake. Yeah, that's what I heard about that as well, that's a private lake. And this is not the only one. That there's a lot of people who have tried to use Mother Nature in a way that it benefits humans. And there were fish in the river before the dams were pulled. There were plenty of fish in the river. And so, and I, as an example of that, I go to the Coho Run above the Willamette Falls, on track to surpass record coho fishing to open on Mackenzie, Middle Fork, Willamette, and Coos River, or Coast Fork Rivers. Here it is. I'm sharing this screen here, and this is another page from ODFW where they're talking about the coho runs and that they're going to surpass the record. And part of that is because of hatchery fishing. And I'm going to read from this article. This was posted just yesterday on the ODFW website. And it says, after record counts for both jack and adult coho at Willamette Falls last year, the 2024 run is shaping up to be among the largest in recent history. As of September 17th, nearly 11,700 adult coho have passed Willamette Falls. While it's still early in the run, there is nearly double the 1991-2022 total run annual average of 6,200. That's almost double. They almost doubled it of the amount of fish that are in that river. But adult coho counts for Willamette Falls have exceeded 20,000 fish 4 times since 1991, and this year's run is on track to top last year's record of 28,700. That is absolutely incredible. And part of that success is due to the hatchery system that we have in Oregon. And they've taken a lot of money, but it doesn't always get to the hatchery. A lot of it gets eaten up by the bureaucracies that have management authority over these hatcheries. But I continue reading from this article. It says, as a result of this robust return, fishery managers have implemented temporary regulations that open angling for coho salmon, hatchery or wild, in some areas that have not been open because coho have not historically been observed there. 2 rods will also be allowed for those anglers with the validation. So they're opening this up because they're having some record runs in the Willamette Falls area. And the expected robust return should provide good angling in areas that have traditionally supported coho targeted angling, and the allowance for use of 2 fishing rods will give anglers the opportunity to improve their odds of these fish, said ODFW West Region Manager Chris Kern. And the temporary regulations are as follows, and they go on with all the different regulations that have been, implemented in this area. But the reason they're having such a success in the Mackenzie, Middle Fork, Willamette, and Coast Fork rivers up there by Willamette Falls, the reason they're doing this is because of the hatcheries. The hatcheries have actually helped this. And the reason I'm telling this story, the reason I'm telling this story is that this past, let's see if I got the article here. Oh no, I can't find the article now. Boy, I hate that when it happens. But there's an article where just recently here in Coos County, there was an incident where, and this was reported in the World newspaper. Hopefully you can see that. I just started sharing that. Let's see. Yep. This, hopefully you can see that, but this was in the World newspaper. And let's get rid of this advertisement here. And boy, they got too many advertisements on the World newspaper. You can't read nothing today with all those damn pop-ups. But it says cause for hatchery smolt mortality in Coquille Basin currently unknown. And this was reported to me by Bob Main just a couple of days ago. He sent me pictures of all these dead fish, all these dead chinook, 37,000 of them in this area of the Coquille River, this tributary of the Coquille River. He knows exactly where it was. He was showing it to me on the map, and then he had pictures of it, of all these dead fish floating. And I read from this article, it says an unknown number of newly released hatchery fall Chinook salmon smolts died at a release site in Beaver Slough, a tributary of the Coquille River. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife released the 37,600 smolts September 11th, and dead fish were discovered by the public a few days later. The fish were too disintegrated for testing at ODFW's fish pathology lab. However, it is suspected dissolved oxygen levels in the water dropped quickly in a short time after stocking. And so Charleston District fish biologist Mike Gray said losing any amount of hatchery Chinook smolts is a blow. And this is a huge blow, because I know the people who worked in the hatchery that produced these Chinook fish. And they, you know, like I said, from going out and milking the fish, bringing the fish back and raising them to be old enough to be released into the river. I just talked to one of the ladies, Pam Lewis, who works in the hatchery, and she was very upset. She was very upset that this was happening. I'll give you the quote here from Mike Gray. It says, so much work goes into raising these fish to the small age that it's a disappointing loss to us. Our volunteers and the Coquille Indian tribe, the local community, and anglers also highly value these fish, Gray said. And that's true. Chinook is probably one of the top desired fish for fishermen, for anglers. When they go out there, the Chinook is something that is highly desired. I myself, I'm not a big, there's certain fish I like, certain fish I don't like. I'm not a big fan of salmon. I'd prefer a halibut, rainbow trout. I'm just not a big fan of salmon. But in the fishing world, Chinook salmon is the top #1 desired fish. And so it was really disturbing to see that the ODFW, for some reason, didn't know that this stream had problems with its oxygen level. I heard that it also didn't have a current, a healthy current through that part of the tributary, and that's why these fish died. But my question is we pay a lot of money to ODFW. We pay a lot of our money that goes into the grants that pay for the hatchery. And in fact, the Coquille Indian tribe pays for the hatchery, probably the biggest portion of the hatchery. And I'm sure the Coquille Indian tribe were real pissed off. In fact, rumor has it that the Coquille Indian tribe is probably going to be taking over the hatching, that part of the hatchery, or they're going to create their own hatcheries. And they're going to do the releasing themselves, because I think they have a vested interest in it. It's part of their native traditions to catch Chinook salmon, or salmon overall, and to that's part of their religion. That's part of their diet. And so this was probably upsetting to the Coquille Indian tribe. I know it was damn upsetting to the volunteers of the STEP program. But what really ticks me off is ODFW. We pay them a shitload of money to make sure that the water is in the perfect condition to introduce these fish. This really shouldn't have been that bad of a process. And I don't know why. That this happened. There's really no excuse for it. There are biologists that work for ODFW. And they definitely should have been able to determine whether there was enough oxygen in the river at the time to be able to sustain these fish from the hatchery. But here's what I think. And I was talking to Bob Main about it, and he kind of sort of agreed with me. But I think that a lot of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, a lot of the new biologists there, they're young. Excuse me, I needed a drink. There's a lot of biologists in there that are young in ODFW. There's a lot of young people who work for ODFW, and they've been through the colleges, and they are part of this idea that all fish should be native fish. There should be no hatchery fish. There should be no fish from fish box that are allowed to be introduced into the river. In fact, there's a huge study going on to see if there's, or determine whether there's a genetic difference between native fish and between hatchery fish. Now, I've eaten both types of fish and I couldn't tell a damn difference. They both taste fishy to me. So I'm not sure why there are people out there who are such purists that they don't think that man should help enhance Mother Nature instead of pimping out Mother Nature like, ODF&W does. Instead of pimping out Mother Nature, we should enhance Mother Nature and try to help her out a little bit by reintroducing some of these fish, these native fish, back into the water through the hatchery system. I don't really see a problem with this, other than we have spent millions and millions of dollars for these hatcheries. And what's sad is, like I said, most of the money doesn't actually go to the hatchery, and most of the people who work in the hatchery, they don't work there. They're volunteers. So it's very disturbing to me that ODF&W was so lax when they introduced these fish into the Coquille River, or the tributary to the Coquille River, that these fish died. 37,000 of them. As far as I'm concerned, they were murdered by ODF&W. But what do you expect from a pimp? Because that's what ODF&W is. They're Mother Nature's pimp, and they don't give a damn about life. Really, in essence, they only give a damn about their bureaucracy. You're going to find that out about anyone who lives, or I should say live, but works for bureaucracy. They talk about nature and how they care about nature and how they care about this, that, and the other thing. But a lot of them, they're ideologues who believe in, climate change, and they believe in the Green New Deal, and they believe that only native fish or native species should be introduced into the wild. But not many of us. Many of us still believe that we can enhance that process, and we can do that successfully. Unfortunately, ODF&W really failed on this project right here. And I forgot to put the pictures up, but I had the pictures of dead fish all throughout the river. Someone went out there and took them and sent them to me. And it was very disturbing. It was disturbing. And now there's a whole bunch of mosquitoes and flies out there. The river stinks from what I hear. And it's just very upsetting that people in ODF&W were that careless, because this was careless. Or was it intentional? Because, like I said, a lot of the people now who work for ODF&W have gone through academia, and they have been indoctrinated into the Green New Deal, climate change, and all that other bullshit that they're being fed by academia. And so I wonder if there were people inside ODF&W who wanted to do this on purpose, because they believe what the native fish people believe, that only native fish should be allowed to be in the river. Not very diverse, not very inclusionary. I'm one of those. I'm inclusionary. I'm all about native fish or hatchery fish, whatever. Throw them on the Barbie. Let's have a good meal. But not some people. Some people, they are purists, and they only want native fish to be in the river. And so I'm wondering, and I was wondering it out loud, and I was talking to Bob about that, and he says, yeah, that would kind of crossed his mind as well. But so that's why I was calling this a murder. They murdered these 37,000 coho fish. As far as I'm concerned, that's what happened. And I'm sticking to that story. I really have no proof of it, other than the fact that this was a colossal failure on the part of ODF&W. You have to be well, how can I put this polite? I'm not going to put it polite. You have to be a flippin' moron, or this is intentional. And this isn't something that's imaginary to me, because this is, this has happened before. And there have been attacks on hatcheries. I don't know if you remember this from April, but a vandal poisons thousands of young salmon at the Oregon hatchery. And this happened not far from here. This happened in Douglas County. And I don't know if you remember this, but this was reported in Reedsport. Nearly 18,000 young salmon died after a vandal poured bleach into a Douglas County fish hatchery tank on Monday, according to law enforcement authorities. And this guy who did this, they finally caught the guy. And let me continue reading here. It says, what may have started as vandalism evolved into poaching, with an illegal killing of fish in one of 4 tanks at the Gardner, Reedsport, and Winchester Bay Salmon Trout Enhancement Program. That's the acronym for STEP. Hatchery in Reedsport. Douglas County Sheriff's Office deputies arrested Joshua Heckathorn. He's 20 years old, of Gardner, and lodged him in the Douglas County Jail on charges of burglary 2, criminal trespass, criminal mischief. According to an agency news release, April 23rd, a DCSO patrol deputy saw Heckathorn walking south along Highway 101, then encountered him again that evening behind a locked gate in the hatchery facility. Heckathorn admitted to trespassing on the property, entering a storage location, and handling the chemical bottle on Monday. That was the bleach that was poured into the tank. In a cooperative law enforcement effort, DCSO and the Oregon State Police Fish, yes, there are police fish out there, believe it or not, but the Oregon State Police Fish and Wildlife Division will collaborate efforts to address both vandalism on the property and a significant poaching incident. According to the OSP F&W Sergeant Levi Harris, the Douglas County Sheriff Office has been a great partner for the OSP F&W division. Harris said their enthusiasm and professionalism is very much appreciated. Their coastal deputies have helped solve cases and or held wildlife violations for us in the number of times here in Western Douglas County. But accordingly, that poaching charges will include unlawful taking chinook salmon for 17,890 fish. That's 17,890 fish, which raised the charge to a Class C felony. In addition, Heckathorn faces charges of making a toxic substance available to wildlife, which I've never heard of such a law, but obviously exists, which is a Class A misdemeanor, and a criminal mischief first degree, damaging and destroying property of another in an amount exceeding $1,000. Additional penalties could include a lifetime angling license suspension and damaging suits for unlawful killing of wildlife. The maximum civil penalty in Oregon for illegal take of a single chinook salmon is $750. Now, courts have the authority to multiply that amount by the number of fish taken, with a judgment in this case potentially raising to the amount over $13 million, according to Sergeant Harris. Although it is unlikely to elevate to that level, the case represents a significant loss for the STEP program. So here you have a young man who, from what I understand, and because this happened back in April, they had since discovered the reason he did this is he's part of this native fish movement. He practices in the green ideology. I don't know if you can call it an ideology. It's kind of more like a religion, because they worship at the knees of Mother Earth. And that's, which is weird, because ODFW is pimping Mother Earth while they're worshiping Mother Earth. Very, very strange relationship going on there. I don't know what the hell is going on in these people's mind. But it goes to show, to my point, that there are young people out there who now are so ideological driven that they're willing to kill hatchery fish so that they can maintain the natural fish in the river. This is something that's absolutely sick. This is a sick ideology, because there's nothing wrong with these hatchery fish. There's nothing wrong with fish from the hatch boxes. And that's what they do. That's what they used to do in the old days. They, to help out the salmon run, the old guys, and I've talked to a lot of them, who own farms on the river. They would put little hatch boxes out in the river and they would raise fish and release them. And you would really not know the difference. And that's still going on, sometimes legally and illegally. It's happening all the time. The Coquille Indian tribe is doing it themselves. And there's no reason we can't enhance Mother Earth, except that you have people like this guy who poured the bleach in the hatchery tank, doing it because he was under the influence of a radical left ideology. And this radical left ideology puts animals, and in this case, fish, above the lives of humans, because humans survive on eating fish. We survive on what Mother Nature produces, or what man helps Mother Nature produce. And so, these are the same people who they think that we should go back to hunting and gathering over agriculture, farming and ranching. They believe that we should go back to being, roaming the plains, hunting and gathering, with fig leaves covering our private parts. Maybe not so much that, I don't know. But this is the ideology that's steeped in many of these bureaucracies. So that's why I kind of have a suspicion that maybe people in ODFW, maybe this wasn't an accident that happened on the Coquille River with those hatchery fish. Maybe it was murder. Just saying. So I thought I would bring that story to you because it's one of those stories that, it just really annoyed the hell out of me, the fact that this was going on. And people were calling it, they were saying, oh, well, that's just an accident. It's just an accident. Was it really an accident? Because it's on the level of incompetency that I tell you what, there should be some type of penalties for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. They have no problem of finding other people, and that's why I talked to you, told you the story about the Winchester Dam and how they fined the district of the Winchester Dam, the water district, for killing lamprey. But yet they don't do the same thing when they're involved with pulling those dams off the Klamath River, killing everything in the Klamath River. That didn't happen. So it's weird how there's that double standard of justice, not only in the cities, but in nature as well. And so we got to be aware of that. And that's why I wanted to present this story, because this just happened. This just happened here in Coos County. And it was just very upsetting to me that a lot of people just don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about this. And part of it is because, well, they like the idea. They like the idea, the fact that that people are, they're trying to get back to nature. It's part of this. If you go to the NOAA website, they brag about turning 1 million acres of agriculture land into a restoration land, land that's been taken back to wilding, meaning it's just gone back to the way it was before man was here, which really, I don't know if you can do that. Man's here. We're part of nature. And so NOAA is bragging about that, 1 million acres of agriculture land. Once again, this ideology that nature and animals should be put above the lives of humans. And this is ridiculous because there's no evidence that humans are going to destroy nature to the point where we can't produce our food. There's no evidence of this whatsoever. And the more agriculture land that they turn back to restoration land, the less the availability there is to people to grow food. And that's part of the problem with a lot of these restoration projects. And I've gotten into arguments with people. People go, oh, no, Rob, you don't understand. You're a moron. It's human development that's destroying agriculture land. And in part, they're right. Human development is destroying agriculture land. You see it, places that used to be farming and ranching areas are now being turned into, suburbs of many of the different cities throughout America. This is happening all over. But the fact is that restoration projects, like what they wanted to do here in Bandon, where they wanted to turn they wanted to take the both sides, the land on both sides of the Coquille River, from the mouth of the ocean, all the way up to the 4 mile marker. And they wanted to turn it back into the marsh. They wanted to, devolve back into what it was before man was here, which is ridiculous because it was nothing but a mosquito refuse. I guess they wanted to reintroduce encephalitis into society so that they can control human population, because we are the invasive species. And really, that's what this native fish society is all about. They really are about putting fish and putting these type of species above mankind. And it's crazy because it's going to destroy human life. It's going to destroy us. And we even know that there are government agencies. You can look at the UN to start out with, that they have documents and have spoken openly about depopulating the earth itself, taking certain segments of the population and finding ways of lowering or eliminating that population. And I don't know, Hitler had a great way of doing it. He would take them all to the ovens and or to the showers and gas their ass. And so there have been people throughout society who have tried to depopulate, in other words, depopulate by getting rid of people they don't like. And I believe that that's really the goal, is that when people talk about depopulating the earth, what they really want to do is get rid of people they don't like. And I'm usually one of those people. And I'm sure maybe some of you who are watching this this podcast, maybe some of you are those people that the United Nations would like to get rid of. And when I hear people talk about depopulation, the first thing that I think is, well, if you think the planet is overpopulated, well, then kill yourself. Go ahead, kill yourself. There are plenty of cliffs out in nature that you can go and jump off of. You'd be dead and you'd be helping the world depopulate itself. If you believe in that philosophy, I think when we have too many humans on the planet itself will start rejecting the human species. I think this is something that will eventually happen if we overpopulate the planet. And I'm one of those who believe that at some point we may need all these people on Mother Earth, because we may not stay on Mother Earth. At some point, we may actually become explorers of space, and we might start sending people out into space. And we need all these people so that we can start, populating other planets and becoming an invasive species on other worlds. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? I think so. And I don't think we're such a bad species. Some of us, maybe some of us not so good, but some of us aren't such bad people. I don't think it would be such a bad thing if we were out there and we were populating other worlds. And so I just truly believe that Mother Nature can take care of herself. If Mother Nature doesn't like the human species, she'll just rear back and kick us off like a bronking pony, okay? Or a bronking buck. They're just going to kick us off. And eventually that will happen if there's too many of us. But, that's where I wanted to go with that story. I got a few comments here that I want to take care of. Oregon Outlaw, he says, when the windmills fail, they will have their ocean marine reserve for the drag boats. Will not be able to fish where it once was. That is how they get their reserve, I guess. And he goes on to continue. It says 500 million, according to the Georgia Guidestones, LOL. I'm not getting that reference, but sure, we'll go with that. And I appreciate all your comments. I love telling these stories, and I love reading the comments after these stories, because it gives me a little insight what people think of them, so I can continue bringing these stories to you, because they're just damn interesting. And it's funny that Oregon Outlaw mentions the wind turbines, because that was my next thing that I was going to be starting to talk about, because there were a couple of new articles out. KCBY had an article talking about, once again, here it is, one of those commercials. I hate those pop-ups on there. Tribes sue BOEM for lack of research in wind energy project on the Oregon coast. No shit. That's very true. No research. Very little research was done. Let me put this up on the screen here. And right there it is. KCBY did a story about the tribes who are now suing BOEM. And I told you I told you the only real true way that we're going to get rid of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management and get them the hell off our coast and not put up these wind turbines is it's going to have to go to court. And when it goes to court, you're going to see where hopefully many of the judges that were put in place by Donald Trump are going to side on the side of the citizens, on the side of the county, on the side of the Indian tribes. And I think this is a great idea because most of the Indian tribes, I believe all of the Indian tribes, are opposed to this wind turbine project because it's just a stupid idea. It's just an incredibly stupid idea. But this was an article that was posted in KCBY, and it says, Coos County, Oregon, a lawsuit filed by the Confederate tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians alleges that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, conducted insufficient analysis of offshore wind energy impacts. The development of offshore wind energy areas are set to take place in two regions off the coast, Oregon coast near Coos Bay and Brookings. BOEM recently authorized the sale of leases for approximately 195,012 acres for wind energy development, and the plaintiff argues the areas are within the tribe's ancestral territory, which contain critical fish and marine wildlife habitats. Well, at least until ODFW kills off all the damn fish. According to the tribes, BOEM turned a blind eye to not only environmental impacts, but also operational effects. And it's very true. They have done almost no environmental studies. They have no clue of what these wind turbines are going to do once they're placed out there. And these wind turbines aren't just like any other wind turbine. Some of these wind turbines, they're 1,000. Well, they're 1,200 feet tall. They're the size, the height of the Empire State Building, and they have wingspans that are the length of a football field. This is just absolutely ludicrous. This has never been tried before. And unlike the smaller windmills that are in a couple of hundred of feet of water on the East Coast, these are going to be these giant 1,000-foot tall wind turbines in the Northwest Ocean here, where it's totally volatile waters out here. I mean, we have some of the worst conditions as far as anything on the ocean. And they're in 4,000 feet of water, 30 miles off the coast. Can you imagine the poor SOB who has to come out and take care of this? I mean, this is just, I don't know. And of course, these people are going to be hired from other places. These people aren't going to be hired here in Coos Bay. I can guarantee you that. In fact, we're going to lose jobs in Coos Bay because they're going to kill the fishing industry. And even the tribes are saying that in their lawsuit. In their lawsuit, they claim that they're going to be losing the ancestral tribal waters that they are used to fishing in. Let's see if this story continues here. It says the sale is scheduled for October 15th, and according to Eichstadt, the Biden administration is pushing BOEM to move quickly. And of course they are, because he has a limited time, not only as the president, but his life itself. I can guarantee you that man is soon for the great beyond, as far as I'm concerned. And it couldn't happen any sooner, and for my liking. But that ties their hands from taking the time to finish those kinds of studies and to figure out the impacts or ways to mitigate those impacts. And frankly, the tribe doesn't believe that the risk to the environment, into the resources into the environment, should be put at risk to what's frankly an arbitrary deadline. And I agree with this gentleman, Eichstadt, that this is an arbitrary deadline. Why are we in such a hurry? We don't know what the consequences of putting these huge wind turbines out in the ocean. We don't know what that's going to be. We have no clue whatsoever. And we are the experimental guinea pigs here on the Southern Oregon coast. Isn't that nice? Don't you love to be a lab rat? That's what I live my life for, to be a lab rat. And I continue reading this story. It says impacted communities, including local elected officials, have reached out to BOEM asking for a delay, but BOEM, which would not comment on pending litigation, has not demonstrating a willingness to push the deadline back. And of course they haven't. we had Senator David Brock Smith, who actually joined with the Democrats, the crazy liberal Democrats, and helped craft HB, what is it, HB 3743? I think that's what the bill number was, 3743. David Brock Smith was the sponsor of that bill, which created the plan to bring in those wind turbines. I know he now says that that's not what he was trying to do. He was trying to help local communities to have some kind of input with the creation of this project, which was all bullshit. You read the bill, read the bill. 40, what is it? 40. Gee, I can't. 3347. Gosh, I can't remember the House bill now. Doesn't matter. David Brock Smith sponsored the bill, and he helped bring in BOEM into our area, just like allowing a vampire to come into your house. Remember the old legend? A vampire can't enter your house unless you invite it in. Well, that's what David Brock Smith did. They invited BOEM in, and they said, hey, come on into our house, destroy our fishing industry. Go right ahead. It will destroy our economies. Who cares? As long as we make a bunch of money for a bunch of bureaucrats, who cares? Well, Coos County Commissioner Bob Main said that he is against the wind energy project, which is one reason why we need him back in office. I certainly hope that if you're out there and you've been listening to Drew Farmer, you don't buy into the fact that he's trying to portray himself as a moderate conservative. Yes, he's trying to portray himself as a moderate conservative because he's the one who's running against Bob Main for his commissioner position. And we need Bob Main in there. And I'll be the first to tell you, Bob Main has made some colossal failures himself. He has made some really bad votes and some bad decisions. But if I have to choose between Bob Main and Drew Farmer, and yes, I have to choose between them, I'm picking Bob Main because he is against this wind energy project. Go ask Drew Farmer how he thinks about this wind energy project. He'll give you an answer that's about 5 minutes long, and you still don't know whether he's for or against it. That's the kind of politician he is. And this was Bob Main's quote from this story. He says, our whole board is against the wind farms. People should know that in Virginia and Rhode Island, it's already been passed in their legislatures, and it's been talked about at least twice in Oregon legislature as feed in tariff, he said. Imagine what your power bill might be. Maine said he expects rates to increase, and I agree with him. Wind energy is some of the most expensive energy you can buy because most of the whole entire project is subsidized by the taxpayers. So even if we get lower energy prices, which we won't because this energy is going to California, it's not coming here to Coos County or Curry County where they're doing the projects. This wind energy is going to go to California. But once they get this wind energy, it's not going to lower our energy cost, and our taxes are going to go up because we are now responsible. When I say we, Southern Oregon, the taxpayers of Southern Oregon are responsible for the maintenance and any damages that is done by these wind turbines, and they can do some serious damage. In fact, they have closed down beaches on the East Coast several times in several different places because what happens is that the wind turbine gets hit by a storm or something. They break apart, and those blades, which are made of fiberglass and other caustic material, wash up onto the beach, and then they have to go and clean the beach. And let me tell you, it's really hard to get fiberglass out of sand. I don't know. Go try it yourself. It's not the easiest thing to do, but that's what's happening on the East Coast, and I can guarantee you that's going to happen on our coast. And if it happens during the summer or during the warmer seasons, it's going to really hurt our tourist industry. So not only are we putting the fishing industry in Coos County at risk, we are putting our tourist industry at risk. What the hell else do we have out here? The Dunes Golf Course? I love the Dunes Golf Course. Beautiful place. But the Dunes cannot provide for the entire county. We have to have loggers. We have to have fishermen. We have to have people who are farmers and ranchers in this county. That's just a foregone conclusion because without these people, we are going to starve because tourists only come here during tourist season. The rest of the year, it sucks and no one wants to be out here except us diehards who love this place so much we're willing to put up with this kind of weather to live out here on the coast. And we're living the dream. We're living the dream. It truly is. I really, at this point, wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And that's why I'm opposed to these wind turbines, because what's happening on the East Coast in their beaches is going to happen here if we allow BOEM to go through with this. And we got to do everything we can within our ability to stop this project. And that's why we encourage the county commissioners to put it up for a vote. Here's a map right here of the call areas that they want to lease out. Now, if you see the dotted lines where they have the call areas, it's much larger than the area where the actual wind turbines are going to be placed. And the area is almost the same size as the county. I mean, it's huge. These are huge areas, and they're right in the middle of some of the best quality fishing areas that you can get off the coast of Oregon, especially in Southern Oregon. And we're going to destroy our fishing industry, which is going to destroy other industries. The seafood processing industry, they don't need to be here. They don't have any reason to be here. All the other ancillary businesses that are created because of the fishing industry, they're going to be destroyed. And what did I tell you before? There are 4 base industries for every economy. Every economy, every service industry, every industry that produces a product is produced from 4 base industries. That's agriculture, fishing, forestry, and mining. All other industries, if we go to the moon, we're going to have those 4 base industries before we can develop a society that has other businesses, other services, and production businesses. That's all of those things come from those 4 base industries. And when you got a government that's destroying those industries, you got to question, why are they doing it? And I go back to, there are some people who are ideologically driven. It's almost like a religion, and they want to depopulate the rural areas of Oregon. And why do they want to do that? Because they think we are the invasive species. And so we got to stop BOEM from doing this project, because this project is nothing but about destroying our rural lifestyle. And this is a beautiful lifestyle. I don't want to give it up. And I certainly don't want to go and live in Portland. I think I would probably end up in jail if I lived in Portland. I imagine they have much worse people knocking on your door than the Latter-day Saints. I can promise you, in Portland, they've got some weirdos probably knocking on your door. And I would have a real hard problem and a real hard time living in Portland. So I don't want to do it. And that's why I want to stay out here. And I'm going to fight like hell. And I hope all of you are going to fight like hell to stop these damn wind turbines. We got to do it. We got to be like Don Quixote and tipping at the windmills. Remember Don Quixote? I don't know if you guys remember that. He was the guy who used to think windmills were dragons. It was an interesting story. You got to go check it out if you can. But we formed a group, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. You can find us on Facebook, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, and we do have a website. It's OAWT.org, which stands for Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, OAWT.org. And if you want a sign, and we've got a couple of signs, here's the sign that has our measure number here in Coos County. That's on the ballot. And remember, yes means no, because that's politics. And well, politics is crazy. Yeah, like I needed to explain that to you. But politics is crazy. And so yes means no. So if you want to stop the wind turbines, you got to vote yes to stop the offshore wind turbines. And the question is a pretty simple question on the ballot. It asks the voters, do you want the Coos County Commissioners to continue opposing these wind turbine projects? And of course, yes, you do. We want them to oppose this. Yes, we want them to stop this. And in fact, our commercials try to relay the fact that you have to say yes, because yes means no. And here I'm going to play this short video from one of our commercials.
Warning, the federal government is trying to put you in a fog when it comes to the offshore wind turbine project. BOEM just announced that it's going to start leasing offshore areas for the wind turbine project soon. This is after they ignored the objections of the environmentalists, tribes, fishing industry, and the general population. Are you tired of government overreach ramming green projects down our throats?
Yes.
Are you annoyed that the government is ignoring your concerns?
Yes.
Do you want to help stop wind turbine projects off our coast?
Yes!
Vote yes for Measure 8-116 and help stop the wind turbines. Paid for by OAWT PAC 23863.
And that's the political action committee that we created so that we can take donations. And if you want to give us donations, we're trying to buy advertising so that we can put that commercial on TV. We can put it on radio. We've got 3 or 4 other commercials. That commercial was designed specifically for Measure 8116, Measure 8116. That's the measure down in Curry County, because the Curry County commissioners, great guys on the commission down there, and they had the balls to stand up to BOEM and pass this measure. In fact, they had the balls to stand up to the union. During the vote on whether to put this ballot measure or this advisory question on the ballot, they had received an email from one of the top unions. I forget which union it was, but one of the union thugs from this union threatened the commissioner, saying, you better not do this, basically, or you're going to end up in court with facing a lawsuit. And the commissioners, I guess they didn't like being threatened like that. So they told this union thug, he can go screw off, go pound sand, pal. And that's what I would have told him too. And unanimously, the commissioners voted for this advisory question. It's advisory question 8116. Here in Coos County, it's measure 6219. And both of the signs, it was really nice because both of the questions you have to answer yes to stop the wind turbines. Vote yes to stop offshore wind turbines. And the question is very similar in Curry County. Do you want the commissioners to fight to stop the wind turbines? And yes, we do. So please vote yes if you want to stop the wind turbines. And better yet, if you want to sign, you can give me a contact, and you can contact me through the OAWT website at oawt.org. That's oawt.org. Go on there, and please, if you got $20, you got $5, give us a donation, because we're trying to get the word out, because there are still people out there, and I talk to them quite often, who they have no flipping clue that this is going on. I don't know how many times, I think I showed a film last week where we talked to one lady who goes, wind turbines? What are you talking about, wind turbines? And we explained it to her, and she goes, oh, well, that's a bad idea. I don't know. I think that really sucks. And originally she thought, oh, well, maybe that's a good idea. And then we explained to her what's going to happen and the negative consequences that we expect from this project. And she was, well, I will definitely check it out and probably be voting to stop this project. But that's what I have found from most people. I haven't found too many people who are in favor of it. I would probably say out of all the people, it's about 99 to 1 that people who support it versus people who don't support it. I would say about 10% of the population here supports this, if that. And that's why I think that the vote is going to come out really high in our favor. And if we get 65 to 75% of the people to vote against this project, it's going to send a huge message out to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful. And I think it's going to be, kind of special.
Well, isn't that special?
Yes, church lady. It was very special, very special. And we're going to continue fighting this, because we're not going to put up with this bullshit. What can I tell you? We're gladiators here. And we love this land so much, we're willing to fight and die for it. And if that's what it takes, we're going to do it. We're not going to take the bullshit coming to us from Salem. We're not going to take the bullshit that's coming to us from the Biden administration. No, we're going to stand up and we're going to fight. And I hope you guys have the balls to join me. I hope that you people are like me. I'm a selfish bastard. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm a selfish bastard, and I'm so selfish. I want to do everything I can to keep this place the way it is for my children, my grandchildren, and all my great-grandchildren. That's how selfish I am, and I hope you're a selfish son of a bitch too. I hope you love your rights as much as I love your rights, and I love my rights. I hope you love your lifestyle as much as I love my lifestyle. I mean, that's the virtue of selfishness. I know people, they think, oh, well, you're selfish. Well, you're a mean old bastard. No, selfishness is a good thing. It's a good thing because the people who go out there and they try to do best for themselves most of the time are doing the best for themselves so that they can pass that on to their family and their loved ones and the rest of society. And society benefits from people who are selfish enough to fight for their rights, to fight for their livelihood, to fight for their lifestyle. And this is freaking Southern Oregon. This is not Portland. This is not the place that Texans look at and go, wow, those people, they're batshit crazy. No, this is Southern Oregon. We love this place and we got to fight for it. So I hope all of you will help me with this fight and help us continue battling against these bureaucracies who want to take away our lifestyle. It's the most important thing that we have to do out here. And, you know, I talked about this at a meeting last night. Let's see, Commissioner Rod Taylor, he had a meeting to talk about the tax levy and to talk about the wind turbines. And I talked to several people there who they're in the same mode that I am, that they're not going to give up their lifestyle to these dictatorial, these authoritarian, these degenerate agencies who are trying to sabotage the government of our country by destroying our lifestyle because they don't like what we have. They want, it's just like the Native Fish Society. They don't want us, the invasive species, because like I said before, these people who are a bunch of tree huggers, and I'm a tree hugger. I'm just not an environmentalist. I got a weird thing for hugging trees. But these tree huggers out there and these Mother Nature worshipers, they want to destroy our lifestyle because they think we're detrimental to the nature out here when we are part of nature. We are just as much part of nature as the chinook, as the elk, as the lamprey, as any other creature out here. The barred owl or the spotted owl, doesn't matter. Which, you know, there's a perfect story. ODFW is getting ready to kill, I forget how many barred owls so that they can save the spotted owl. Who the hell are they to play God? You know, who are they to play God? They're, you know, they talk about Mother Nature and how wonderful she is. Well, if Mother Nature wants to get rid of those species, Mother Nature will do it. She's much more powerful than the ODFW. And so this is why you got to help me and your neighbors and the people who live out here in southern rural Oregon fight against these agencies. And we got to stop people like Drew Farmer from getting into office. We got to stop him. You got to do everything you can to try to stop people like him from taking over the commission. If we get him on the commission, we wouldn't, if Drew Farmer was on the county commission, when we went to the commissions, we went to the board and we asked them to put this advisory question on the ballot, it never would have happened. I guarantee you, Drew Farmer never would have voted for it. He says he would have, but I don't believe him because he has lied before. He's great at lying. The leftists love lying. Not that the people on the right don't love lying too. It's just that the left make it part of their lifestyle. And so we don't want their crazy lying lifestyle destroying our rural lifestyle out here. So that's why we got to fight against all these efforts to destroy the people of Southern Oregon. And this wind turbine project, this is one of the biggest threats to our lifestyle. So I hope you enjoyed the show. This was pretty much my rant for Friday night. I hope you join me for Monday. I finally got a confirmation from Craig Rucker. He's from Climate Fact or CFACT. CFACT, just look them up if you want to check them out. I'll have more information on them when I post for the show. But tune in 3 o'clock on Monday. He's going to be on here talking about what he has done as far as stopping or help stopping the wind turbines on the East Coast. And they have had some success in the courts, which is lucky for us, because when these court battles get high enough in the court process and they go to the district courts, whether it be the 5th Circuit District or the 9th Circuit District, and eventually they head to the Supreme Court, that's a good thing for us, because if they rule in the favor of the people on the East Coast, more than likely they'll rule in the favor of the people of Southern Oregon who are trying to stop these projects. And you add that with this advisory vote, and like I said, I think we're going to get an overwhelming majority who are opposed to this project. I think it's going to be a wall of defense against these, not only the bureaus, these government agencies that are dictating to us what kind of lifestyle we will have out here, but to the corporations who are taking advantage of our tax dollars. These corporations, the only reason they're involved with this project is because it's been backed up by the taxpayer. The taxpayer is on the line, and these corporations will suffer no liability if they screw up this project. Much like the ODFW when they killed those 37,000 chinook fish. Yes, they're not going to suffer any consequences. They only impose consequences on people they don't like. They don't suffer any consequences of their own. And it's really sad because that's the state of affairs going on in Southern Oregon. So I want to thank you for joining me. Join me on Monday, because Monday is going to be one heck of a good show. What can I tell you? Craig Rucker is a very entertaining man. He did the movie The Climate Hustle. If you've never seen the movie The Climate Hustle, go check it out. Look it up. I think you can find it on YouTube. It's a really good movie. Also coming up, this goes to election integrity. We have two opposing sides who are going to be facing off in the debate over election integrity. Excuse me, I got to take another drink. Good stuff. Sweet tea. The Coos County Board of Commissioners have scheduled a work session with Dr. Douglas Frank and Professor Justin Grimmer, to discuss election integrity. This is going to be happening in the Owen Building in Coquille, Thursday, October 10th at 9:30 a.m. This is a work session, and I didn't get a chance. I should have talked to Rod about this, because I'm hoping that the format only allows for the commissioners and these two gentlemen to have any time for speaking, because it's going to be a packed room full of a whole bunch of people, and I really don't want to sit through public comment where people drone on and on and on about conspiracy this, conspiracy that, white supremacist this, white supremacist that. And the leftists come up with all kinds of weird reasons why they don't want to make sure that our voter rolls are clean. It's just a sad situation, but this is going on in Coos County. This is really a wonderful thing that's happening. This has never happened anywhere else. It's funny, none of your business. This is a funny comment. This is why I'm kind of it says Justin has a very punchable face, doesn't he? Justin does have a very punchable face. I agree with you. Douglas Frank, he looks like just one of your average college professors who, he's kind of nerdy, but he gets it right. Douglas Frank is, what can I tell you? He's a very accomplished man. And this guy, Professor Justin Grimmer, he's one of those who's trying to debunk everything that the people who are bringing up these questions about election integrity, he comes out and tries to debunk them by attacking their character. So hopefully the commissioners will allow these two to actually debate on the issue and have a little bit of back and forth. But this is going to be incredible. And if you're someone who's out there in another county and you're involved with election integrity, I highly recommend you get to Coos County on October 10th. This is a Thursday, 9:30 a.m. in Coquille at the Owen Building. It's going to be a blast. None of your business has another comment here. It says, if a leftist lips are moving, they are lying. Yeah, boy, isn't that true? And so that's pretty much what you can expect from Professor Justin Grimmer. But I like to hear both sides. I would give this man a chance. And in fact, if I plan on going to this meeting, and I'm going to ask Justin Grimmer if he will be a guest on my show. I've had Dr. Frank on the show a couple of times. I think I've had him on my radio show a couple of times. He was a really great guest. He's very proficient and professional, talking about why he believes that there are problems with our voter rolls. And if you look at his charts and listen to his explanation, it sounds absolutely plausible. But I want to hear what Professor Justin Grimmer has to say about all these charts, because Dr. Douglas Frank got all his information from the Secretary of State's website. So this should be one hell of a good argument that's happening here in Coos County, little old Coos County. We're going to have this huge debate. I guarantee you, this isn't happening in a lot of places, because even if you go to places that the commissioners are mostly Republicans or mostly conservatives, there's very few of them that have the cojones to have this type of debate. And I'm really proud of Bob Main and Rod Taylor for having the balls to bring in these two gentlemen to talk about election integrity. And once again, if Drew Farmer was a commissioner right now, we would not be having this debate because it would not be allowed. When Melissa Crippens was there, she would not allow this. Her and John Sweet would always lock together in lockstep. Why? Because John Sweet is nothing more than a liberal himself. And they would never have allowed this type of debate to go on. So, Oregon is rife with voting fraud. That's another comment, none of your business, it says. And it's true. I wasn't even looking for voter fraud, and I found it in Curry County. And so people who say that voter fraud doesn't exist, well, they're full of shit. You can tell them I said so because it's true. So we got to be careful out here because we got a great commission, and I hope you all are going to be supporting Bob Main for commissioner. Not that I think he's the greatest commissioner out there. I just think he's the best choice. And, this isn't like the legislature or another area. This is our county that we're fighting for. And if you want to fight for this county, you got to have people who are willing to get into the battle. And obviously, Bob Main is willing to get into the battle. I give you those two examples. He helped put the wind turbine advisory question on the ballot, and he's supporting this election integrity debate that's going to happen on the 10th. You think Drew Farmer would do that? Hell no. Drew Farmer, what would he be doing? He'd be measuring the walls to figure out how many gay pride flags he could put up there. That's what Drew Farmer is about, putting up gay pride flags. Yeah, that's what Coos County wants to be. That's the kind of county we want to have, is a county where the commissioners are more concerned with gay pride than they are about the actual condition of the county. And so, and by the way, one of the reasons I'm going to vote against the tax levy, even though the commissioner supported, I'm voting against it, is because I'm worried that Drew Farmer will become a commissioner, and I don't want him to have any damn money. I want to be able to take as much money as I can away from Drew Farmer and John Sweet before they get into that position, because once they're in that position and you give them money, they're going to misuse that money, because that's what leftists do. And let's see here. None of your business. He's great. A great comment. John Sweet always votes in lockstep with the young globalist, even though he's an old shyster. Yes, I agree with that. John is an old shyster, and he's a great campaigner, because great campaigners, great politicians, it's not because they're good people. It's because they're good shysters. Usually that's just the case. It's true. What you think about most politicians is absolutely true. They're all dirtbags. And John Sweet, I tell you what, I'm not very happy with what he's done, but he's still on the board, and we don't need someone like Farmer replacing him. It says Farmer's priorities are way out of whack. Yes, and none of your business. He knows Drew Farmer. He knows Drew Farmer quite well. He's had to deal with Drew Farmer, and I know who none of your business is. And I can tell you right now, he understands the danger we are in if Drew Farmer gets elected. And like I said, Bob Main wouldn't be my first choice. In fact, during the primary, my first choice was Chris Castleman. I thought Chris Castleman would have made one hell of a county commissioner. And he would have voted, because I know I just talked to him today, he would have voted for the advisory question about the wind turbines, and he would have supported this debate on election integrity. Chris Castleman would have been all for this. And that's why I supported him, because I think he's a young man who has a lot of energy and a lot of good ideas. Bob Main, he's part of the old boys network, but he's the best choice we have. And that's why I'm going to continue supporting him, and I'm going to be voting for him, because I think if we get Drew Farmer in here, it's just going to be really bad for Coos County. And that's my rant on the commissioner's race. So before I get out of here, you know how it is. I got to pay the bills as well. And of course, I'm going to promote my sponsors, because my sponsors are badass. There's some very badass people. And if you got some trees that you need taken out for your property, I'd recommend you call 3H Tree Service. 3H Tree Service. They can take those trees out with surgical precision, I tell you. And if you want to see the quality of their work, go to 3H Tree Service on Facebook and check out those videos. And they will show you how they surgically remove those trees so that they don't fall in your houses, your cars, or your sheds out there. And they clean up the area once they're done. They're a great group of guys. The Holman gentleman, Matt Holman, he's the owner of 3H Tree Service, and you can call him at 541-294-1800. Once again, 3H Tree Service at 541-294-1800. And of course, one of my other sponsors is Tim over at Tom and Gigs. Tim and Shanna have owned Tom and Gigs for quite a while now. And you can catch them over at 135 South Shoneman Street for any of your automotive needs. They can take care of you. If you need an RC car, some tannerite, a light bar for your Sentra, who knows? I got a Sentra. I might be putting a light bar on my Sentra because I want to be one of those guys who drives down the highway as bright as I can. I want to be noticed when I'm on the highway because I'm in a little Sentra. But they will do that at Tom and Gigs. They will take care of you. All your automotive needs over at Tom and Gigs, and you can call them at 541-888-4660. Once again, that's 541-888-4660. I hope Tim is back in town. I hope he can come back on the show on Monday because that ought to be pretty interesting. And you can get them, find their company, Tom and Gigs, over at 135 South Shoneman Street. And of course, Herbal Choices, another one of my sponsors for all those herbal needs. You got herbal needs. Sometimes I have herbal needs. And one of the places I go, my first choice is Herbal Choice. Herbal Choices, great place, great business to go. They have well-lit parking lots with well-lit stores. And the bud tenders are always happy to give you service and give you friendly advice if you have any questions. I usually don't have any questions. I know my herbal needs, and when I go in there, I'm pretty decided on what I'm going to get. You know, I'm not a big fan of those gummies. You know, I'd rather do it the old-fashioned way, but some of you like those herbal gummies, and so you can get those at Herbal Choices. They've got a lot of products out there that I think you might find interesting. So for all your cannabis needs, check out Herbal Choices. There's 5 stores, one south of Bandon, one in Coos Bay on Highway 101, one in North Bend on Highway 101, and there's one in Reedsport on Highway 101. Highway 101 is a good place. You can hit 4 Herbal Choices stores between Bandon and Reedsport. So if you have herbal needs between Bandon and Reedsport, you got a place to go. And if you find yourself in Charleston, they have a store in Charleston. Check out their Herbal Choices there. Great people. I highly recommend them. And of course, Oregon Firearms Federation. They've been fighting for your Second Amendment rights for a long time. You can catch them at OregonFirearms.org. I'm going to get Kevin back on the show here in the next couple of weeks to give us an update on his fight against House Bill 2005. The House bill that just made many of us Oregonians outlaws. Why did it make us outlaws? Because we own unserialized guns, or what they call ghost guns. Ooh, oh, there's one of those ghost guns. Yes, when I'm fighting Casper the Ghost, I use a big old ghost gun. No, ghost guns don't exist. They're not. That's bullshit made up by the left. The left makes up a lot of bullshit, and that's that term ghost guns. Ghost guns. They're just guns that have not been serialized, and they're now against the law. They're illegal in Oregon, and hopefully the case will go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will say, I'm sorry, America was built, was founded, was fought for by people who owned guns that were not serialized. In fact, if it weren't for guns that weren't serialized, this country may not be a country. Think about that. Not only did they create a whole new class of outlaws, but they're destroying the American heritage by making unserialized guns against the law and made a lot of people criminals. It's very sad, very disgusting. They're not my sponsors, but I do like to recommend the Bandon Gun Club. You can find out more at thebandongunclub.org. If you want to go out and give your pistol a few tries, you know, pump a few rounds through your pistol, well, you can do that at the Bandon Gun Club, and you can find out more information at the bandongunclub.org website, Or if you want to go and shoot your rifle, sight in your telescope, go to Tioga Sports Park at tiogasportspark.org so you can find out when they're there and when they're open, because they got varied hours, because they're all based on volunteers. A lot of good people out there working for Tioga Sports Park. And it's good that they're working out there so that people like you and me who want to get more proficient with our tools, with our firearms, then we can do that. We can do that by going to Tioga Sports Park and sighting in those rifles, because I'll tell you what, you might need those rifles. We may have to take out a few of those blades on those wind turbines. What I hear is that one 5.56 round through one of those blades will take out an entire wind turbine. I don't know if you can use that information and what you can use it for, but I'm just putting that out there. Yeah, just one bullet hole into one blade on a wind turbine can take out the whole turbine. That's what I understand. Not that I'm recommending anything, but there's just some ideas that might be going through your head, and I just want to help you out with those ideas. That's just the kind of guy I am. And like I said, at certain points, we got to start fighting we got to start fighting not only for us, but for the future of our freaking children, man, and our freaking grandchildren. If we don't do it, who do you think's going to do it? You think the leftists are going to do it? You think Drew Farmer's going to do it? Freaking no, man. So we got to do it. We got to stand up for what's right. It's the only way we're going to win this fight. And I hope all of you have the balls to follow through, because you're Americans. You deserve to live this lifestyle. You don't let anybody, especially some commie leftists, try to take this lifestyle from you. You deserve it. Your founding fathers, your relatives from the past have fought for your ability to have the freedoms that are now guaranteed by the Constitution, given to you by nature or nature's God. And you need to fight for that, because if you don't fight for it, then they're going to take it away from you. I can guarantee you they're going to take it away from you. So don't run away. Don't be a coward. Continue the fight. And so until Monday, folks, until we got another show, I hope you join me. I had a great time. I hope you had a good time. And until next time, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.